Yeonsangun, Prince Yeonsan, born Yejong, is remembered as the worst ruler of the Joseon Dynasty, a tyrant. He is the only ruler to never receive a temple name, a posthumous title accorded to monarchs for the purpose of ancestral worship. But before we get into his life and rule, we have to go back to the death of King Sejong in 1450 to better understand the era in which Yeonsangun was brought up and lived. King Sejong's frail son, Munjong, succeeded him but died of disease 2 years later. Danjong, King Munjong's son, ascended the throne soon after. He reigned from 1452 to 1455, only 3 years. He was 12 years old when he became king. The chief state counselor, Hwang Bo-in, ruled in his stead. A year later, in 1453, Danjong's uncle, Sejo, led a coup and overthrew the government. He deposed of Danjong in 1455 and ascended the throne. Thinking that Danjong would be a threat to his rule, Sejo executed his nephew in 1457. Danjong was only 17 years old. Sejo was King Sejong's second son. It seems that killing relatives was in the blood of the Yi family, as we saw with King Yejong, Sejo's grandfather, who killed 2 of his half-brothers. Sejo executed 6 ministers. They were members of the Hall of Worthies, a royal research institute, and were appointed by King Sejong himself. They were also tasked with looking after King Danjong. So of course, they were not happy at all with Sejo's usurpation of the throne. They planned a counter-coup against Sejo, but he learned about it and arrested 5 of them. One of them, Yu Sung-won, committed suicide with his wife beforehand. Sejo executed them, as well as members of their extended family. Men were executed, while women became slaves. They became known as the 6 martyred ministers, sayukshin. King Sejo died in 1468. His sickly son, Yejong, succeeded him. He was 18 years old at the time, but very ill. His mother, Queen Jong-hui, ruled in his stead. During his reign, Nam-i, a famous general, was wrongly accused of treason and executed. Sejo liked and trusted Nam-i. Yejong was jealous of his father's affection for the general and became jealous of Nam-i. The general was accused of conspiracy to remove Yejong from the throne. Nam-i was executed in 1468. He was only 26 years old. His false convictions was acknowledged in 1818 by King Seongjong. Following Yejong's death, Seongjong became the 9th king of Joseon. He was the grandson of Sejo. He encouraged Confucian scholars to come to the royal court and offer their opinion on political issues, even if their views went against the conservative officials and nobles. It is said that Seongjong was himself a scholar and artist. In 1477, following the social stigma against women at the time, he enacted the widow remarriage ban. Princess Yi Guji was one woman who was persecuted because of this new law. It was discovered that she had cohabitated with a slave after being widowed. She was forced to commit suicide in 1489. She was the daughter of Prince Yejong, the first son of Daejong of Joseon. In 1491, Seongjong sent armies to attack the Jurchens on the northern border after several Jurchen incursions. Seongjong put his son Yeonsan-gun on the throne in 1494 and died a year later. Yeonsan-gun succeeded his father and became the 10th king of Joseon. His mother was Queen Jaehon, also known as Queen Yun or Lady Yun. She was the concubine of King Seongjong. Seongjong didn't have an heir when his wife Queen Gonghae died, so he chose Lady Yun as second wife. She gave birth to Yejong, later Prince Yeonsan. She was known to be temperamental and jealous of the king's concubines. In 1477, she poisoned a concubine. In 1479, she struck the king, leaving marks on his body. Seongjong's mother, Grand Queen Insu, learned about this and sent Lady Yun into exile. She was later executed by poison in 1482. Since then, she's remembered as deposed Queen Yun, Pebi Yun Shi. Yeonsangun soon learned that his real mother wasn't Queen Jonghyun, who became his father's third queen, but in fact Lady Yun. At the same time, he learned about what happened to his real mother and tried to restore her title and position. Government officials opposed this by saying that they were following King Seongjong's will. These officials were part of the Sarimpa, Forest of Scholars, a powerful faction of literati originated from the school of Gilje, a Goryeo scholar who studied under Isek and Jongmongju. They were against the usurpation of Sejo and wanted to transform Joseon into an idealistic Neo-Confucian society. In 1498, Kim Il-son included in the royal record a passage criticizing King Sejo's usurpation. Kim Il-son was a disciple of King Jong-jik, a prominent Neo-Confucian scholar. Kim Il-son was a government official who held various positions and was well seen by King Seongjong, who invited him and his Sarim scholars to the court, as well as supported their political ambitions. They were in direct conflict with the Hungupa officials who gained considerable power and wealth through their support of King Sejo's usurpation of the throne. Prince Yeonsan saw his chance to get rid of the Sarim scholars because of this paragraph criticizing Sejo. Kim Il-son and other followers of King Jong-jik were accused of treason and were executed. Kim Jong-jik's remains were desecrated. This became known as the First Literati Purge, Mu'o Sa-hwa. In 1404, Yeonsan-gun beat to death two former concubines of his father because of the part they played in poisoning his mother. He fought with his grandmother, Grand Queen Insu, pushing and critically wounding her. She died from these injuries a short time after. He executed many officials who were implicated and supported his mother's execution. He even executed officials who were just present at the royal court at the time and didn't do anything to prevent his mother's exile. This became known as the Second Literati Purge, Kapja Sa-hwa. Prince Yeonsan executed scholars of all factions, Hungu or Sarim. It is said that 28 officials were executed by drinking poison, and the remains of 8 deceased officials were desecrated. Similar to King Sejo, the family of the officials were also punished. Male members were killed, while female members were enslaved. A total of 239 officials were executed, exiled, or dismissed. Yeonsan-gun closed the Songyun-gwan, the royal university instituted by King Seongjong of Goryeo in 992. Yeonsan-gun also closed Wonggaksa Temple. He converted them into his personal pleasure grounds, where young girls and horses were gathered from the whole kingdom. His plan was to build his own personal brothel on these sites. Wanting hunting grounds near the palace, he forced people to demolish a large residential area of the capital. He evicted more than 20,000 residents in the process. The people wrote posters in Hangul mocking the king. That made Yeonsangun very angry, and he banned the use of Hangul, the Hunminjeongeum. There were protests, of course, from the officials, so Yeonsangun abolished the office of censors, whose function was to criticize the actions and policies of the king. He also abolished the Hongmunguan, an institute where the king can seek advice from Confucian sages on how to behave and follow the right path. Yeonsangun ordered his ministers to wear a sign that read, "A mouth is a door that brings a disaster. A tongue is a sword that cuts off a head. A body will be in peace as long as its mouth is closed and its tongue is deep within." As if this wasn't enough, there's a story where the eunuch King cho'son, who served under 7 kings, politely asked Yeonsangun to change some of his ways. For saying this, Yeonsangun used him as target practice with his bow and cut off his limbs. He then proceeded to punish his relatives, following the 9 familial exterminations way, whereas his parents, grandparents, children, first, second, third cousins, and so on were executed, basically exterminating the family clan. No one dared to oppose Yeonsangun until the year 1506. On September 2nd of that year, a group of officials deposed the king and replaced him with his half-brother, Grand Prince Jinsong, later King Munjong. Prince Yeonsangun was exiled to Ganghwa-do and demoted from king to prince for all eternity. He died of dysentery or grief 2 months later. One of his consorts, Jang Nok-su, was beheaded. It is said that she encouraged him in his misbehavior. Yeonsangun's 4 sons were executed. A tragic end to a tragic and despicable rule. His successor, King Munjong, went on to rule Joseon from 1506 to 1544. From the end of Sejong's rule until the death of Prince Yeonsan, there were countless needless deaths throughout the kingdom at the hands of power-hungry, mad even, kings and governmental officials. The kingdom would further see bloodshed and the return of foreign threat because of the gradual weakening of the dynasty. Here are some movies that I recommend watching on the life of Yeonsangun. The King and the Clown, a 2005 production about street clowns whom Yeonsangun invites to his court. The Treacherous, a 2015 production. It depicts fairly well Yeonsangun's descent into madness, as well as the behind-the-scene court dealings that go on. Yeonsangun has also been depicted in a 1961 production titled Yeonsangun, which focused more on the prince's effort to restore his mother's status as queen. The sequel, titled Tyrant Yeonsan, came out a year later. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment.